Well, hello, folks, and welcome to my channel. Today's conversation is going to be on generalization of all strength training and hypertrophy muscle building, and to achieve those, the essential elements, essential factors that go into building any program that makes sense. The weight training resistance program to be able to achieve the goals in terms of the hypertrophy and strength gains. So, uh, first off, let me start with what we have to work with. We got 8 major muscle groups. 4 of them are large muscle groups, and 4 of them are small muscle groups. The large muscle groups are chest muscles, back muscles, quadriceps, and hamstrings. Both hamstrings and quadriceps, the lower body part. And the small muscle groups are biceps, triceps, shoulders, and calves. Those are the smaller muscle groups. I believe in relatively high volume training principle. So it's a matter of, I think, you can find obviously a lot of discussions for or against either volume training or high intensity. But I'm a firm believer in high volume training. That is, in general, 20 sets per week per large muscle group and 10 sets per week per small muscle group. These numbers are not exactly, like written in stone. They can be a little more, a little less, depending on the combinations and amount of weight the person is using in his or her weight training programs. But let's stick with those numbers. High volume and 20 for large muscle groups, 20 sets, and 10 sets for for smaller muscle groups. If you look at it this way, typically you're going to come up with, and there's again, there's no exact number, but there are ranges. But my take is, at least the way I apply is, I'm hitting or exceeding total of 720 reps overall, full body for the whole entire week. It could be 800 reps, it could be 750 reps, but usually in that range. And again, this is not strictly a strength training, but parts of it can be involved. It's kind of borrowing from the strength training and also borrowing from the hypertrophy training. Also, another principle, in general principle, again, I want to mention is this. For instance, when you're doing deadlifts, when you're doing bench press or squats, those are the compound exercises, right? Those are the basic fundamental lifts, also they call compound exercises. In other words, those are the multi-joint exercises which you can actually test your strength, and you need to actually improve your strength. And again, in general, for strength training, the number of set and rep combinations would hover somewhere around between like 4 to 6 sets and 46 reps. And actually, in my case, what I believe is higher number of sets, more like 8 to 10 or more. And again, if it is for kind of on the strength side, 4 to 6 reps. On the hypertrophy side, 8 to 12 reps. Those are the ranges typically that should apply for those goals. Hypertrophy again, and strength gains. And one other thing that we need to mention is uh, like the ones that I just mentioned, the compound exercises. Those are again like bench press and squats and deadlifts. Also, I want to include the like overhead presses and barbell row, bent over barbell rows, lat pulleys. You gotta go relatively heavier for those exercises. But also for certain isolation exercises, those are also called single joint exercises, such as dumbbell side laterals for uh, rear shoulders. I'm sorry, the side laterals, the side of the shoulder head, or Um, dumbbell flies. Those are the isolation exercises that are also called and labeled as single joint. The goal is not pushing heavy weights. It's important to find the right amount of weight that allows you to perform the exercise in a strict form. You should not be losing your form because, again, what matters is for single joint exercises such as, for instance, dumbbell side laterals, to be able to hit the muscle in an isolated manner perfectly. For this, you need to be paying a lot of attention to perform the exercise in a strict form. Any weight that is causing you to get away from this is the wrong weight. You should reduce it. So I think lighter is better, but I mean, how lighter? Again, you got to find that one. Typically, the principle is if you're doing this 8 to 12 reps, let's say you're doing a 10 reps, and you should be having a considerable amount of difficulty for the last two reps. That doesn't mean I typically don't agree with going all the way to the failure, like a lot of people talk about going all the way to failure, but you can find a lot of recommendations that being shy couple reps or at least one rep shy of the total complete failure is more of a recommendation than going all the way to the failure. So you got to adjust your weight for those kinds of single joint exercises. As a kind of a rule of thumb, if you're doing a 10 reps again, the ninth and 10th should be giving you a fair amount of difficulty. Still, you should be performing the exercise properly without losing the form. And also, one other thing that I want to mention is paying attention to strict form. It's always right. It's always sounding right thing. No one should be recommended like do not pay attention and do it in a way that is considered cheating. For instance, when you're doing standing barbell curls, uh, doing a lot of swinging, that means using momentum to lift up the weight is not the right thing, right? Because you're actually cheating. You're not really hitting the muscle for hypertrophy. A lot of times, in general, I mean, this is correct. This is not something that I'm arguing against. But there is a big but with capital letters. For the lifter, over time, to be able to achieve certain strength gains, and they must be achieved. Without strength gains, you cannot use heavier weights and for the recommended number of sets and reps and in relatively strict form, you you still have to achieve certain strength gains. If you don't, if you keep using the same weight, that means you're not gaining any strength. Your muscular development, in other words, the hypertrophy, is gonna stop. You're not gonna be able to achieve more results as you expect. So this is an optimization problem actually. So my recommendation is let's talk about again as an example barbell curls. Let's say curly bar, barbell curls. It could be, or you can also discuss that, of course, for alternate dumbbell curls, sitting or standing. I'm going to use example curly bar, barbell curls, standing barbell curls. Typically, what I would do as a solution for this would be, uh, let's say I'm doing it for 8 sets. Okay, 8 sets. I start with the weight, starting with 12 to 15 reps, lighter weight, and I keep adding to it. And for the first 4 or 5 sets, I did a lot of reps in a perfectly strict form. And then, especially the last 3 or 4 sets, it could be 4 or 5 sets, depending on how many total sets you're doing, I would be loading up and forcing myself to use momentum. In other words, cheating. Why? Part of it is psychological too. I want to kind of cross the threshold. I want to, in my mind, psychologically, I want to cross and pass that threshold, and I want to be able to lift heavier weights. Initial times, I know I would be doing it in less strict form. That means my form, the so-called proper form, will be suffering. But by doing this, I'll keep adding sets with that higher amount of weight, which would be causing me to cheat more first initially, and after a while, after a couple weeks maybe after a month, it'll become an easier, and therefore my other earlier sets, which I was doing strict form, I would be able to add more weights and still doing completing the exercise in a strict form. What is it going to be doing to me? The benefit of doing this is now I'm doing the same exercise in the same strict form, which is the right form, but this time I'm using heavier weights, which is going to be uh, stimulating the hypertrophy. So this is an absolute optimization problem. There is no one size fits all solution. This situation can easily change from person to person to person. Everybody, it's a very individualistic thing. Everybody has to find their, what I call, a sweet spot. The sweet spot is different for everybody, but this is a general rule of thumb that yes, stick to your strict form for exercise that we're using now, in this case a barbell curl, but to be able to achieve those results in the long term, that this kind of principle should be applied. This was an example. It could be to dumbbell curls or Scott bench curls, like also called the preacher bar curls, or any other. You can be doing cable bars, cables for your biceps, or you might be doing lat pulls, close grip lat pulls, or maybe pull-ups, again, close grip pull-ups. Whatever you're doing, this rule of thumb, I think in general, should be applicable. So let's look at the basic fundamental factors that go into building any good program. What do we have to work with? What factors do we have to work with? We're talking about the exercise type, like I just mentioned, example, barbell curl. The number of sets, the number of reps, the amount of weight, and also the duration between sets. How long you need to rest. And there is one more thing, and a lot of people do not pay attention to that. It's hard to think about it maybe. It doesn't come naturally. It's not as intuitive, but it's as important as, in my opinion, as the other ones. That is called the time under tension. So look at that. I'm going to count those factors again. The exercise type, barbell curl, number of sets, number of reps, uh, the time between sets, amount of weight it's used, 5, and one more, the number 6, the factor number 6, the time under tension, the, for the muscles to be kept under tension. What is that supposed to mean? Excuse me. Let's say again, same example, I'll be continuing on that one for this as well. We're doing barbell curl. Typically, we're lifting it up. Lifting up is the technically the muscle contraction. The bicep muscle, it's also called elbow extensor. The actual name of the bicep is, it's also referred to as elbow extensor. The elbow extensor is being contracted. It's being subjected to contraction by curling it up. That is the concentric phase of the lift. I repeat, that's the concentric phase. A lot of people, once they're done with that, they bring it up all the way here. They just let it go all the way down to repeat this the second time, second rep, third rep, fourth rep, right? That's called, when you're lowering the weight, is called the eccentric phase. The eccentric phase is also important. It's not much less important, it is very important, because when you're lowering the weight in a controlled fashion, I repeat the key word here, the operative word here is in a controlled fashion. When you're lowering the weight in a controlled fashion, meaning it just doesn't drop like a free wall, okay? As if you don't have any kind of resistance, you cannot just fall on. No. you just lower the weight in a controlled fashion. So once you're doing this, I'm just kind of, let me just make some little arrangement here so we don't have any surprises while I'm recording this. Hold on a second. I should have done that before. I'm sorry. I keep usually forgetting that. So just allow me doing this. Okay, done. Again, I apologize. I should have done this before. Anyway, when you're lowering the weight in a controlled fashion, it is called the eccentric phase. The muscle is still working out. The muscle, again, is still being stimulated. It is still part of the workout. It's not done. And especially while you're lowering the weight, you're keeping the muscle longer under the tension. Typically, it should be measured like in 4 or 5 seconds. Instead of just free fall, boom, let it go. Don't do that. Lower it in a controlled fashion. It could be a few seconds, 4 or 5 seconds, or 6 seconds. That means for each rep, let's say you're doing this for 8 sets, 8 reps for 6 sets, right? For each set, you complete the concentric phase of the movement, which you just bring it up here, right? And then lower it. So that is the number 6 factor. That should be added, always should be considered and paid attention to, just like the other factors I just mentioned, like the set, weight, rest times, amount of weight, reps, all those things. So when you look at it in a kind of holistic manner, what is it that we're talking about? In a good total program, and again, when I'm saying total program, uh, there are some guys I know they're talking about the full body workouts, full body workouts for each training. I, I haven't been doing this. I'm against that for a simple reason. Typically, my workout schedules are like this: one muscle group, one workout for one muscle group per week, and I complete what I just mentioned, the total number of sets and all those things for that muscle group. And typically, my workout programs are 6 days a week. And if I can't finish that, let's say, large muscle group, let's call it legs. So there are 3 portions, 3 sections that I basically try to cover for legs. Those are the quadriceps, hamstrings, and calf muscles. It is a large muscle group, and especially leg workouts take a lot of energy, like squats, leg presses. Those are taking huge amounts of energy, and it may not be unless I spend one whole workout without any other exercise, any other muscle group. Sometimes I don't feel like I'm gonna complete the exercise. Then that's fine. I would complete the rest another day of the week. So having this kind of adjustments, 1 or 2 days per week per muscle group. Typically, smaller muscle groups, again, such as biceps, triceps, shoulders, or calf muscles, those can be completed in one workout. You can even complete both of them in one workout. I typically try to do that, 1 or 2 groups, and then I try to give my time and energy, the large muscle groups, in more like more energy. It takes more time and more energy. So this way it takes 6 days. So basically, if you look at it, it is simply not possible. I mean, to me, it's humanly not possible to be able to hit all the muscles, to cover all the muscles, which is full body workout, in one workout, because it's simply impossible. I don't have that kind of energy and time. If I try to do it, probably I wouldn't be able to work out the entire rest of the week. it will be that almost like incredibly difficult, especially the amount of weights that I'm trying to use, which is for fundamental exercises, especially for the strength part. I use 85 to 90% at the 1 rep maximum, and with that kind of combination, I have to extend the rest times between the sets, and full body is absolutely ridiculous and it's out of question. But for a lot of people, especially for beginners, uh, uh, full body workout is recommended. That's different. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about a little more specialized workouts, which I'm talking about, referring to the one I've been following is called split system. Split systems and using the pyramid systems for fundamental lifts or multi-joint exercises such as the ones that like squats, for instance. And when I say squat, I'm using the term in kind of in general. It could be various different types of ways and equipment you can use, obviously, for your quadriceps. I use V squat machine. I use hack squat machine. I use hip sled, the leg press with the I'm sorry, not hip sled, leg press with the sled. I'm using leg press with the cable stack. Uh, there are lots of different kinds of equipment, the machines you can use to hit your quadriceps. I'm using less and less squats, like I used to use more, but now I'm kind of staying away from squats. I should be also taking, given more time, still the squats, but there are other ways. A lot of people find, have their own reasons, maybe from the safety perspective, maybe comfort perspective, whatever that can be. They're using different, including like me myself. I'm one of those people. I kind of switch mostly towards those machines instead of squat itself. But again, in general, what they call is what the squat is a king of the exercises, right? It's one of the best ways to show the strength shows and all that stuff. But still, you can hit your quadriceps or hamstrings with various different equipment. Nevertheless, whatever the equipment you use, for instance, just the other day I did, hack squats and also reverse hack squats, and I went up all the way to 700 pounds on reverse hack squats, and my quads they were killing me the next 3 days. It absolutely took more than 48 hours to recover. In fact, 72 hours to recover the next quad exercise. So that's what I've been meaning to kind of explain here between the volume, high volume, and relatively high intensity, some kind of combination I'm talking about. Splitting, using split system, splitting the workout sessions per muscle groups, and typically kind of rule of thumb number of sets and reps. And again, for heavy lifts such as the lower back, deadlifts, bench press, shoulder presses, and those using different strategy versus more specialized single joint exercises such as side laterals and flies, cable flies, and those. And sticking to this, and along with the proper nutrition, sufficient amount of sleep, that definitely starts, paying dividends. But again, as always, as you all know, it's a matter of patience, consistency, and dedication and motivation. Thank you very much for listening to me. Stay safe, stay strong, stay healthy.